Hey, everybody, welcome back to the vlog. Well, today we're going to give you guys an update uh, about my first case. And it wound up being a really big one for a whole multitude of reasons, which I'm going to get into. Now, I hate giving a half-assed story. Some of my stories are just so unbelievable that a lot of people, if I didn't have that book, wouldn't believe my stories. That's how unbelievable and frequent they were over a 30-year period. Over a 30-year period. Now, don't forget, when this event took place, I was 21 years old. Didn't know shit about how to do undercover work, but I learned as I went along. So what I did was I went into the Kevin Moore archives. Yep, Kevin Moore's got archives. Who would think? And I went and I searched because I stumbled upon the letter from Mr. Goldberg, who was the victim in this case, him and his family members, his wife. So we looked for them, and I found two things. Number one, you guys can see this right here and read. It's kind of blurry. This is from July 9th, 1975. 5 days after Mr. Goldberg wrote to Mr. Robert M. Morgenthau. At the time, he was the DA of New York County. And he was a very prestigious guy. And I'm going to talk about him a little bit towards the end. And you got to remember, too, I wanted to, I'm going to be all over the place. Robert Morgenthau used to be the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. He was appointed by John F. Kennedy. He was appointed by John F. Kennedy to get that position. And in January 1975, he left that position, or maybe it was earlier than that, 74. He left that position, and then he wound up running for DA in New York County, Manhattan, and he won. So he became district attorney January 1st, 1975. And the first big case that he had, believe it or not, was one of my cases, which was the rug. And I have to, nothing goes right with me. And of course, the rug picture has to be what? At the very end? I can't find the rug picture. Where's the rug picture? That's him right there. That's him right there in his office with this big, huge Persian rug that I recovered that was worth 50 grand. That was my first case. And now here we go, my second case. I'm out of prison. And so let me read to you this letter that Robert Morgenthau, who is no longer with us, he lived to be almost 100 years old. He did. And he was the DA from 1975 to 2009, New York County DA. This is the letter that he wrote. Now, it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys want to freeze your camera and you can probably make it, but I'm going to read it. It says, what's it? Harold S. Goldberg, D.C. I think he was also a chiropractor. 380 West 14th Street, New York, 10014. Dear Mr. Goldberg, thank you very much for your letter of July 4th, which we already saw on the last video. I was very pleased to receive your kind comments about the performance of the New York County District Attorney's Office. Now, Robert Morgenthau was in charge of New York City detectives, and they were part of what they called the Manhattan District Attorney's Office Squad. They're New York City detectives, but they work for the DAs. I will certainly pass on your comments to Inspector Condon. He was a piece of crap, that guy. I never liked that guy. But nonetheless, Inspector Condon, Detective Robert Mercado, who was my friend and business partner 40 years later in California when we opened up our private investigative business, and Detective Joe Chubby. This is Joe Clabby, piece of shit. This is Bob Mercado, Robert Mercado. And this, of course, is Jim Doherty, who actually, they screwed him. Jimmy was the one that was responsible for me getting out of prison and all the fucking hoops he had to go through to get me from Queens House Detention to Sinks to Greenhaven. Holy crap. He happened to, all right, so he got screwed out of going on this job, which wound up being in New Jersey. So this is the actual, forget about this down here, it has nothing to do, these two. This is the actual newspaper clipping from July 4th, 1975. These two right here. Now, as you can see, the copies weren't very good back then, and it's 50 years old now. So what we're going to do is I have a recording set up, and we're going to read that now. Can you set that up? And we're going to read that. Where was it before? Put it as close to the thing as possible. Okay, so listen carefully. My daughter's going to be reading this because I was too small. Even with my glasses, I couldn't read it. I can't read it. So go ahead. Let's see what the newspaper clipping said. Now I'm going to be listening to this this newspaper article for the first time in 50 years. So basically, what happened was the bad guys went to Mr. Goldberg's house in New Jersey, Hawthorne, New Jersey, and they knocked on the door. They were going to pose as police officers, take everybody and control the house, and then have Mrs. Goldberg call her husband in the Diamond Exchange and tell him, I'm being held at gunpoint. They're going to kill me and the maid who was in on it, but she didn't know that then, and give the guy that's standing at the counter with the green hat, empty the safe out and give it to him now. Pretty ingenious way, and it probably would have worked if it wasn't for the fact that he effed up when he took me into his confidence about this caper. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Listen, this is the actual newspaper from the New York Daily News, New Jersey edition.
Two gunmen, posing as cops and apparently bent on robbery, walked into the jaws of a carefully orchestrated police stakeout yesterday at the posh estate of an osteopathic physician in Hawthorne, New Jersey. The real cops, tipped to the caper through a wiretap, grabbed the pair there and two other suspects in a nearby parked car without firing a shot, authorities said. The apparent target of the callers was Muriel Goldberg, a partner in a New York City jewelry firm in the Diamond District and the wife of Dr. Harold Goldberg. Mrs. Goldberg said the men were planning to clean out the house and safe of cash, jewelry, and securities, kidnap her, and force her to open the safe at her jewelry firm, Mel Kent Inc., at 55 West 47th Street. More than 80 New Jersey State Police, New York City detectives, and local cops joined forces in the stakeout in and around the luxurious 6-bedroom, split-level home at 67 Beverly Road. The robbers, police said, drove to the house in the 1969 Chrysler Imperial in an apparent plot to rob Mrs. Goldberg, 42, a part owner of the jewelry firm for the last 12 years. Her son, Richard, 21, an Uppsala College student who also worked there, was with her, waiting out of sight in an upstairs bedroom when the two gunmen arrived shortly before 10 a.m. Dr. Goldberg was at his Manhattan office at the time. New Jersey authorities said that the tip on the alleged robbery attempt was provided by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Arrested and charged with conspiracy were Robert P. Amoroso, 27, and his wife, Joan, 38, of 125 Arcadia Road, Hackensack. Carl Vaccarino, 28, of 562 East 56th Street, Brooklyn. John Chubby Verrastro, 35, of 23909 Braddock Avenue, Bellerose, Queens, and Frankie Baldi Tortorella, 38, of 1438 East 95th Street, Brooklyn. Amoroso and Vaccarino, who police identified as the armed pair, were caught carrying masking tape and rubber gloves, police said. The two were held in $150,000 bail by Hawthorne Municipal Court Judge William Rosenberg. The two were also charged with impersonating police officers, attempted robbery, and carrying concealed weapons, a pair of .32 caliber revolvers, and phony police badges. Verrastro and Tortorella were held in $100,000 bail. They also were charged with attempted robbery. The woman was held in $25,000 bail after her arraignment in Hackensack's Municipal Court.
Municipal. Thank you so much, Kaylee. Isn't that great? Anyway, so what they later found out was, since those people that hit the door at Mrs. Goldberg's house didn't wear masks, they were going to kill everybody. They were going to murder them. They knew that, but I don't know. Don't forget, this is like the day after. I think it happened. I know it happened July 3rd, and it was in the papers in July 4th. So, needless to say, Mr. Goldberg was very pleased with what the Manhattan DA's office did. Now, I'm going to give you a little backstory. So this is why I don't like Inspector Condon and that little creep Joe Clabby. He was the reason. He and I bumped heads all the time. I got along with the rest of the squad here. I got along with all of them except him. I just didn't like him. I don't know what his problem was with me. So this is what happened. That was really a tragedy out of this whole thing. Not a tragedy, but my friend, lifelong friends to the end. We were friends until the day I buried him, which was in October of 2011. He was on vacation. Jimmy was on vacation. Now, Jimmy worked so hard with all the other members of this squad, and everybody knew that it was on television too. It was a big thing. And don't forget, this is my first case, and I came out of the gate not knowing anybody. Cultivated this whole thing by Morris Weiss of Murder Incorporated and this guy Chubby. What was his name? Verrastro. I used to call him Verrastro. Verrastro. Well, all you Italians must hate me because I can't pronounce your fucking names right for shit. So anyway, where was I getting old. I think I got fucking dementia or something. Anyway, Jimmy was on vacation. Jimmy lived in Suffolk County, New York, and to Hogan Street, Hogan Place, where the DA's office was pretty far. But anyway, they knew this. He was on vacation. Inspector Condom, that's what he really is, that prick. Rotten teeth he had, smoked a cigar. That prick didn't call Jimmy. It was Jimmy's case. He worked his ass off to get me out, to make that whole case. Now, it was a big publicized case, and I would sit, anyway, he got cut out of it. Nobody told him. He could have jumped in his car and shot to Jersey. Nobody told him. Nobody told him. And the coolest thing about this job for me, it was kind of easy. I made the meeting. He pat me down. He didn't feel the wire, Chubby, John Verrastro. But he told me the whole plan. He told me when it was going to go down. He didn't give me the specific date and time, but he told me everything. Prior to my meeting Chubby, I was on the phone with him, and we were talking about committing a crime. That's what the police needed to request a wiretap on his phone. And they would say, here's the recordings that we have from our CI, yours truly. And they went into a judge, and the judge signed the wiretap order. And then the wiretap commenced. It was 24 hours a day. There was this guy here. Here's the guy that did the wiretap right here. Where is he? Detective Hawkins, Tommy Hawkins. Great guy, my friend. He was just a great guy. Lives over in Brooklyn. He's retired back in the 90s. It's like in his 80s now. Hi, Tommy, if you listen. He was the guy with the headphones, with the recorder going. And so sure enough, dumbass Chubby talked on the phone, and they knew when it was going to be. The DA's office called the New Jersey State Police, Hawthorne Police, Bergen County. There was 80, because don't forget too, Chubby Verrastro was an organized crime member. So when they heard that name, not too much happens in New Jersey like it does in the 5 boroughs of New York City. So they made a big deal out of it. So when the cops, when Condon, Chubby, and Mercado get to New Jersey, they have all kinds of body armor. They tin their way into Mrs. Goldberg's house, took her in a safe room, or took her out. They took them out. And they took over the inside of the house. So the funny thing about it is, New York City police have no police powers in another state. So they had to be sworn in as New Jersey cops. They sworn them in. The commander of the New Jersey State Police, whatever the fuck he was, they swore those 3 guys in. And Bob Mercado was a big guy. He had a pump shotgun, and he's in the house waiting for them. He knows they're armed. And they knocked on the door. Now all the cops start slowly coming, driving up. And he knocks on the door. He opens the door, and Chubby goes, like, was surprised to see this guy with a fucking vest on. And Chubby went, police, whoom! And Bobby just pulled him in. And then the other ones threw him in the ground. Then he went. So it was really a cool bust. And to think that I was a 20-year-old in the Queens House detention, and that's how I cultivated this case, by working Morris Weiss from Murder Incorporated back in the roaring 20s, because he liked to get visits from pretty girls in jail. So, the thing that I learned from that is any target that I had, I figured out right away, what can I do to make that guy or that girl want to be around me all the time? And we're going to be talking about some techniques that I basically used on everybody, which was basically my personality and my propensity for getting into trouble, fist fights at strip clubs, and doing all kinds of crazy things, police car chases, and and so on. So I just thought it would be cool to show you guys, and to actually read the newspapers, and again, you know what? So now Robert Morgenthau is starting his career. He got his name in the paper over the rug, and he got his name in the paper a couple months later over this. Anything that happens in the Diamond Exchange is big. The New York Diamond Exchange on 47th Street is big business for New York City. It generates a great deal of taxes, and it's the biggest diamond exchange in the world. So any news that anytime, and nobody could ever stick up the Diamond Exchange, because everybody in there has guns. The merchants, the vendors, the security, they have off-duty cops outside. There's no way you're ever going to leave that block with anything that you stole, unless you're shoplifted or whatever. But so now Robert Morgenthau knows Kevin Moore's name. He knows who I am, and he knows what I just did for his career. Especially, when you get letters from victims like Mr. Goldberg. Mr. Goldberg was shaking in his boots when he found out the real story, and he thanked me. He gave Jimmy a $100 bill and said, "Give it to the guy." He says, "Yeah, $100 bill is from him." And then, of course, I didn't get paid, but Mr. Goldberg, he passed away. They're no longer with us. But I just thought that was a pretty good story, and so now it was great that Chubby didn't take me with him, because as soon as he got arrested, that went right back to Morris Weiss, that he got arrested. Then I went, oh, thank God I wasn't there. So he never suspected it was me. And then I wind up getting another job from Morris Weiss, which is going to be coming up on the next video, where he gets me to murder his friend's business partner, which was a cab company called Main Street Taxi in Flushing, Queens. So we're going to be talking about that story as well. So thanks for tuning in, and thank you, my beautiful daughter, for your great work. And I'm going to see you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But and we're getting a couple of subscriptions in here and there. But come on, guys, push the button. Do what's is right. Do the right thing.